What's up, everyone? We are back here with the fourth edition of the NFL Nerds podcast. We have an exciting episode here with the NFC East, and we have a special guest, Dr. Salt or Ethan.
Yeah.
Want to introduce yourself?
Yeah. So, I've been chill with both of these guys for a while now. They're cool. They know ball almost as much as I do. I'm just
more.
But, all right. Well, let me feed my own ego, okay? Yeah, I'm here because I'm the Cowboys fan, and I spend a lot of my time either looking at Cowboys stats or watching Cowboys All 22 on repeat. So that's fun.
Yeah, we got a big Cowboys fan here today, and we figure he knows the NFC East a little bit better than us, maybe, so we can get some assistance. But this is an exciting division to break down, nonetheless.
For sure.
Yeah, and so let's start off at the top with your favorite team, even the Cowboys. But Alon, let me ask you first: over under 10 wins for Ethan's Cowboys.
Under 10 wins. I think they go under 10 wins. I said this to you guys earlier. It goes against all my morals to say that there's not going to be a repeat NFC East winner because there's absolutely no causation, correlation, anything with that. Actually, I guess there's correlation, but there is not good causation. But like there just got to be something, just like something where like it's been like 20 some years, like a new winner every year. Like there's been many years like where you don't expect it either, like years after the Cowboys have been 13-3 or 12-4, 17 games now. But that's not my reasoning for under 10. I just think it's kind of an interesting thing. My reasoning for under 10 is I think the injuries are going to be just too big. The Eagles got better this offseason. Like I think they beat them twice last year, right? Those were pretty easy wins. I remember the first one on
they were both
prime time. Yeah, prime time, just absolute blowout. But losing Tyron Smith is really big. They lost Lyle Collins too. I know some Cowboys fans like Terrence Steele.
I think Steele's a good right tackle. He's a terrible left tackle.
Yeah, he's not Lyle Collins level. And losing Tyron Smith is obviously huge, one of the better tackles in the game, left tackle too. I don't know what they're going to do at left tackle. I saw Jason Peters might be a potential guy they look at, and he's 40. I mean, he was good with the Bears last year. I can't complain. But once you reach that age, it's like any snap, like he could just be done, like injury, whatever. And he's very injury prone too. So I mean, at some point in the season, you might have to see Tyler Smith playing left tackle, and I know they drafted him with the intention of him playing left guard for good reason. I think he's kind of a similar to Tevin Jenkins type player, where I don't think he's going to have the lateral quickness to be a tackle. So if he does have to play there, I'm not confident in them protecting Dak well this year. Traded away Amari, lost Cedric Wilson. I had two really good players. Cedric Wilson I really liked last year. He fit really well with Dak. Drafted Jalen Tolbert, who I like pre-draft, but he's going to be put in a role that is too big for him early on. And CeeDee's great, bordering or in the top 10 for sure. But when you got one weapon and your other weapon's Dalton Schultz, who I picked in fantasy too, because I really like Dalton Schultz, and he's probably their number 2 option. I think their defense, their number 1 pass defense last year, is going to take a step down because they're really like the 2018 Bears, like really, really reliant on getting turnovers, and that I don't think that's sustainable at that degree. So I think offense will regress. I think defense will regress. It's not a bad team. Like I could see 10, 11 wins, anywhere from probably 9 to 11, 12 wins, but I think they're going to go under. I don't think they win the division.
Yeah, I mean the secondary and this receiving core definitely is in for a treat after last year. I think they're due for some serious regression.
I think our safeties are better than they were last year.
Yeah, that's
With the safeties now.
Kyrus, Hooker, I think Bland is going to be kind of a hybrid, and he looked really good in camp. And then there's what's his face. Trying to remember. And then Donovan Wilson. Hopefully he'll stay healthy. He's a good third safety to have.
Okay. Yeah.
So despite the regression that Alon might think is headed their way, Ethan, I have a feeling I can guess where you're sitting on 10 wins over under, but what do you think?
So I haven't done like a playoff predictor where I look at our schedule in a while. And so when I did it early in the off season, I was looking at our schedule and I was thinking maybe we can get like 13, like optimistically 13 is possible. I think now I'm probably gonna have to shave off a couple wins with the Tyron injury. Namely, I thought we could beat Cincy, so I'd change that to a loss. I thought we could beat Philly in Philly. I'm probably going to have to change that to a loss as well. And so I'm going to go with a very shaky just over at 11, but I could really see us hit the under. So I think the thing with the Cowboys is there's two different ways to look at them. Optimistically, you look at all the star power. Pessimistically, you grade them by their position groups. And I think to me, you look at the star power on this team, and I mean, I think let's say we can get, and it will probably won't happen. It's probably won't happen. It could. If we can get 17 games in the regular season out of Dak Prescott, CeeDee Lamb, and Micah Parsons, I think the chances of going over 10 are still pretty good. I think the 10 line is like a perfect number, honestly.
Yeah, I think so too. That's what they do. They're good at their job.
If we lose any of them for substantial game time, I think the season's over. I mean, it's a given with Dak, and I would say so with Micah, with CD. Pretty obvious why. I mean, you look at the receiving group around. Now, I will say, you guys were talking about Tober. Gallup was not put on the PUP list. He's coming back early in the year. I
have him in fantasy too.
He's coming back pretty soon. So it was looking bad at the start of camp, but now it's looking really good. I think Jerry Jones was quoted on the radio saying, if this was hypothetically like the Super Bowl, we would play him in because, all in, but we want to be a little more conservative because it's just the start of the year. And so we're going to hold him back for a couple of games. So yeah, it seems like that's the case. Unfortunate those two games are against, teams you would love to have him against. But the other thing I was going to mention with Terrence Steele, he's quite a good right tackle specifically. The problem is he's a dog shit left tackle, and that's why maybe statistically he looks worse than Collins, but he was better in the run game than Collins was. Now, pass protecting is a little different. He's definitely worse, but he's also less of a penalty machine than Collins was. Collins was pretty bad with those. So I think the downgrade from Steele to Collins, assuming Steele maintains his level from last season at right tackle specifically, isn't too dramatic. That being said, camp has been a little worrying for him. If he does take a step back, then we have an issue. The O-line is definitely worrying. I definitely think we're probably going to go back-to-back years with first-round picks at that spot. Obviously, that's a discussion for another time. As for like the secondary, I actually think our secondary group is quite strong. I think Anthony Brown is quite good, even though he's had a couple meltdown games, namely against the Raiders and the Buccaneers. I think Darren Bland can be a solid rookie. He's going to probably play slot, do some safety. He's a very hard hitter. Trevon Diggs, the ever controversial corner. Look, there's things said about him, but the thing is that I think people don't realize is, he has his like pretty bad games, like he did against Denver, like he did against the Niners, but he has games where he absolutely is on fire. I mean, look what he did against Mike Evans or Justin Jefferson or Terry McLaurin or Devontae Smith. There's a reason why like Cowboy fans love him a lot. If it's like, and I would also say it, he's prone to like some pretty terrible moments. Not all of them are as his fault as some people say. I mean, the one against New England, for example, or Deontay Harris stat padding. But there are some pretty bad plays, namely that Tim Patrick game was awful. I actually quite like our secondary. I think our linebacker group is going to be the strength of the defense. Obviously, you have Micah Parsons, who I think if I were to put a parlay on awards, I'm going to ignore Rookie of the Year and Coach of the Year because of how hard that is. I would go. I know this is a bit unrelated, but I'd probably go with a Herbert, Chase, or Jefferson Parsons parlay. I really like Parsons getting it, and it follows a nice trend of guys winning it in their second year of the league after they have a shot and miss out in the first year, like J.J. Watt and Luke Kuechly did. Guys that do things that Parsons does on the field. Yeah, I mean, I'm a big fan. And then our pass rush is interesting. We lost Gregory, but I feel like people over dramatize the loss of Gregory. Because for one, Lawrence is going to come back. He missed a lot of games too. Gregory himself has never even played like 10 games in a year for us. Like, he's impactful, but he's never really stuck around to have that volume. And so I would think that, if Sam Williams can stay healthy and play well, I think we're good at that spot. I actually don't think our defense will regress too badly, because I think, people talk about our turnovers. Our defense was pretty good at making field position for third down bad, and our defense was also the best third down defense in the league. And I think that's a very important thing in terms of measuring consistency.
Third down defense?
Yeah. The combination of that.
I think that is the most volatile.
Yeah, I think singling out downs is really
Oh, it is. Well, I was saying
sample
that
is just too small, especially third down.
I was saying the combination of making field position for it and being good at it specifically is good for consistency, not individually.
Yeah.
Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is that our defense was good at getting stops without turning over the ball as well. I guess is trying to make the point.
Yeah, no, it was. I mean, the defense last year was really impressive.
Best pass defense in the league.
Yeah, best pass defense in the league. And, obviously the pessimist in me wants to say it's due for regression, but it was impressive what they did. And I think you have to project it at least as like a top 10 pass defense for sure going into next year.
I agree. I don't think we'll be the best one again. And it's crazy.
I would almost guarantee you will not be.
Oh yeah, and it was kind of crazy to me statistically that we were when I think about some of the games we had against the Raiders. How did that happen?
We have games like the Chiefs too. That was an impressive game. Although Dak was not very good in that game, if I remember correctly.
The entire offense wasn't.
Yeah, the offense kind of. It was what 17-9 was the final, something like that.
So just to remind you, CD got concussed at halftime. Amari Cooper was out with COVID. Tyron Smith was out with an injury. It was
I remember they were hurt.
Yeah.
But regardless, the defense did really well against Mahomes.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm interested to see what happens to the defense this year, big time for sure. I mean, obviously, the thing is, Diggs probably. I don't have WAR leaderboards available, but I'd imagine Diggs was the leader in WAR for cornerbacks last year, just because interceptions are so valuable. But this is like someone with putting up 5 WAR with a 380 BABIP. It's like you look at that and it's like, okay, yeah, he did put up really good production numbers, but you just obviously have to question, how likely is it is he going to sustain it going into next year? I mean, Diggs is such a tricky one, right? I mean, I know Ethan, you'll defend him to the day you die. I think I tend to lean a little bit more conservative with him, but at the same time, I think I get both arguments, and I think honestly, no one is right yet. I think everyone just needs to calm down a little bit. He's had, 2 seasons in the league, and at least, he's had one really good season production wise, and that one really good season has already made him worth his draft pick.
100%.
No matter what. And I think that's what's important for the Cowboys.
And that's the cool thing about that season being last year, man. If the haters are right, if the haters are completely right, well, then we don't have to fucking pay him that big contract. And that's the way I've kind of thought about it. And if they are, and he continues to just prove them wrong, well, then he's worth paying a substantial amount of money.
He's going to be a really weird one to figure out how to pay. How, all that stuff. Because I mean, he's probably up for an extension after next year, I'm going to guess.
Yeah,
year 3. So, I mean, if he has another high interception type season, J.C. Jackson got paid, I think Jason Jackson is probably better than Trayvon Diggs at this moment.
I mean, I'd agree.
He will get, if he gets 5+ interceptions this year, I think he's going to get himself a big payday, regardless of the other stuff. Like, I think Jerry Jones is going to be like, "Well, I drafted this guy, like, whatever, 16+ interceptions in 2 years. Like, I'm going to pay him." And he's a tricky one for sure because he plays the most volatile style of corner, and maybe he'll, for 5-10 years, it'll really work well, and he'll rack up all these interceptions. But there's going to be moments like we saw last year where like Cam Sims is beating him at the catch point and all this different stuff. He's a really interesting player. There's, like Luke said, there's absolutely no right answer on him. It could really, the distribution curve is extremely wide.
It's huge.
And then like I said, that's the great part about it. Last year being that crazy year, and obviously there are things that we don't know how his development is. For all we know, it could be different this year. I mean, I know people go crazy when bad things happen to him in camp, but that's just how media narratives go. I mean, a lot of other corners, like you compare he got beat by Keenan Allen on a play. People are like, "Wow, he sucks," and then Darius Slay gets beat by Tyreek Hill, and they're all like, "Oh, what a great rep by him!" Like, it's annoying, but hopefully, but that's kind of irrelevant. We just gotta hope for the best. And if not, well, then he's not getting that insane amount of money. So,
yeah.
So Luke, what do you think? Over or under 10?
I was gonna say. So I think I'm gonna push 10 wins. I think 10 wins is a really fair spot for these Cowboys. When I look at this team, I obviously have to look at last year's team first, and I think I was a lot higher on last year's team. And what ended up happening last year is the Cowboys, they were kind of, and obviously not as good as the Rams, but they had like a similar supporting cast, I feel like, to the Rams, where they had, probably the highest war corner. Parsons was probably the highest war edge rusher. And CeeDee Lamb was probably top 5 in war. And Tyron Smith and Zach Martin were probably top 5 for their positions too.
I think Tyron Smith was the highest graded pass blocker in the league last season.
So he might have been. I think Trent Williams probably hadn't beaten war, but he was probably 2 or 3.
Yeah, that's probably 2.
I never understood why PFF put so much, like, an overall grade, put so much emphasis on like run blocking comparatively.
Run blocking matters for corners. If you're gonna play a team that's heavy outside zone and your corner cannot break a block from a wide receiver, like those are where the big.
I was talking about for like linemen comparatively to like pass, like you see it affect the overall grade more, isn't it?
Well, it's on a per snap basis. So like if there's like 200 run block snaps and 800 pass coverage snaps, it's gonna be weighted that way. But if you're in a run block snap and you're not doing anything, they're running away from your side, you're just going to get a 60 grade. Like, that's just kind of how it works. PFF just gives you like a 60 for like an average play.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, I think with Gallup coming back soon, I didn't know that, Ethan. I didn't know he was coming back first. It sounds like 2 or 3 weeks. But that's really good for this team. I think they need a number 2 behind CD, because as much as I think Dak and CD are talented, I think it's a little bit harder to force feed the ball from Dak to CD than maybe it is like from Kirk Cousins to Justin Jefferson, or from Joe Burrow to Jamar Chase. I think those guys are just a little bit more dynamic to the point where you can really kind of hone in on them as a quarterback. And obviously, I think CD's terrific, top 5 receiver-ish. I think 6, 7. Maybe, but
I think projection wise, I think maybe I'd put him as my 5th.
But I'm excited to watch him this year. I think with Gallup on the other side, that definitely opens up the field for him. I do think I would not bet on this team having the highest war corner and edge rusher again this year. I think I am a huge Micah Parsons fan. He's incredible. A 93 pass rush grade in your rookie season is just insane. That doesn't even make sense.
Yeah, should not happen.
No, it shouldn't. And to still be a great off-ball linebacker is terrific. But I think Myles Garrett and some other guys, TJ Watt, are probably still better pass rushers. But
I don't know about Watt, to be honest. I'm really low on Watt.
Yeah,
the thing with Micah Parsons is he's not a normal edge rusher. Like, he will rush up the middle. So I mean, that's gonna. Yeah. I think Watt is still a better edge rusher. I think at this moment, because Micah Parsons is going against guards a lot of the time, where he is just way more athletically talented than
sometimes he just acts like a defensive tackle on the play and still fucking.
Yeah, like they will run him as like a nose, like he will like blitz up the gap. Like
I
saw it against the Raiders when they played them,
and against the Broncos too.
Yeah,
he was the only player that showed up that game.
Yeah, but he is. I think Micah Parsons is like outside of quarterbacks, like if there's one player I'm taking, it's him, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase in the entire NFL. Like, he is probably the most valuable non-quarterback in the entire league right now.
Yeah, I agree.
I think, those three guys are really in their own talent sphere right now. But I think someone who's kind of easy to gloss over with this team, because he's kind of been such a stalwart, is Dak Prescott. I think he's an interesting quarterback, and everybody has their own opinions at this point. I was always a big Dak guy because I thought he was so much better than Wentz when people used to compare the two. So I always would have his back. But since winning that debate, I think my bias towards him has kind of changed a bit. I still do think he's a very good quarterback. And I guess to answer the question I'm about to ask both of you, I do think you are able to win a Super Bowl with him. But I think he has his limitations, and ultimately will struggle to ever be the best quarterback in the league in a single season. I think that's unlikely for the rest of his career, unfortunately. But for both of you, do you think Dak is good enough to win a Super Bowl with?
Yes, but I think he's at like the last tier of that.
Yeah,
like it's tough. I think so the Cowboys have had some really good teams, some really good defenses. They've always had a great offensive line. Since Amari Cooper's been there, they've had good weapons, and they've really struggled to make it anywhere past the divisional round. And I think coaching is definitely a part. Former coach of the year, Jason Garrett, I don't think he was very good. Him and Matt Nagy winning it back-to-back years is one of the most insane things to ever happen.
I don't think it was I think it was Garrett, then McVay, and then.
Maybe Garrett was 2016.
Those are the big three.
Yeah, it was 16.
Yeah, the big three: Garrett, McVay, Nagy. But I really I struggled to really, in my own mind, find a good case for Dak to be top 10. There are I would take Kyler over him. I would take Lamar over him.
Oh,
at this point, I think
you did not just say Kyler.
No, for Kyler, I think almost for sure I would take him.
I
think Kyler is dynamic. I really like Kyler. I just Dak is great. He's got good touch, accuracy. I don't think he will ever have the physical tools to be a top quarterback. So I'll always take this rushing floor, and I think Kyler Murray and Lamar Jackson have a quarterback 5 rushing floor, and that's huge to raise their floor. You can count on when everything's going to shit, you can count on their legs to make plays for you and win you football games. You just can't, and that's why I'll take him over Dak. But I think he's probably he's in probably the Stafford tier. I would think he would probably need a roster similar to Matthew Stafford to win a Super Bowl. I think you can win a Super Bowl with him for sure, but probably not Stafford level, but close to it. And I think over time he's proven that.
So, all right, here's where I'm going to disagree in a few areas. So, for one thing, when you look at our playoff losses outside of the Niners game, I can't really fault him for any of them. For Christ's sake, as a rookie, it took an Aaron Rodgers career level game to fucking knock us out of the playoffs with how good he was.
What a throw that was! My God,
I hate Aaron Rodgers just as much as you guys do.
I don't know what you're talking about, hating a professional athlete.
Look, I think when you look at the state of Dak, there's the Kyler argument. I thought this in my head. I have never seen a full season sample that either is healthy. I've never seen Kyler Murray play up to the level Dak did in 2019 or last year, if we're being completely honest. I think when you're talking about their ceiling, because that's what's comparative, they can both take over, dominate a game, and make you feel, oh man, this quarterback is absolutely insane. What the hell? And so, I mean, yeah, Kyler's a better runner, but I mean, I feel like people don't realize that Dak was actually quite the good runner before his injury, and maybe he was just being a little more on the conservative end last year.
I mean, his leg is totally screwed up. Like, and that's going to affect him for the rest of his career. Like, he's never going to be nowhere near the same runner. Like, I mean, the running threat is just really not. I mean, he's mobile, but the running threat is not there anymore.
I actually disagree. I think it was just more of a conservative thing this year. He was never fast. He was very strong. He was difficult to tackle. That was his running style. So I disagree. Sure. He was never an elusive speed guy. He was just more of a strong, right. You're not going to tackle me kind of runner. But ignoring that, because looking at as a passer, I mean, I truly believe that you look at what he does. I think that outside of like Brady and Rodgers, because those guys are just experienced vets, he's the best pre-snap general in the league. I think
Herbert beats him there. Probably Mahomes too.
I don't know.
I think Herbert pre-snap is one of the most underrated quarterbacks in the league. I think he is exceptional.
Yeah. Don't get me wrong, he is, but I think in terms of just diagnosing defenses, making adjustments, I think outside of those two guys, I don't think anyone does it better than him.
This is based on no evidence, but I also feel like Russell Wilson would probably be better at that.
Yeah.
They're
close.
I would also say, I think in terms of tight window throwing, he's just absolutely excellent. Like that is his bread and butter. You can, and it's like, I think that he has a case to be one of those top tier guy in that department. And you'll call me crazy, but like it's not even when Dak is on fire, but even when Dak isn't on his game, it's the tight window throws he still connects with. It's like really weird. And I think it has a lot to do. His biggest problem, in my opinion, is I think he overthinks. And so when you get him in a situation where he just has to go bang, bang, he's going to get it because he doesn't have to overthink on those tight windows, if you get what I mean. Now to like, and, comparatively, I just think as a thrower, I can't put Kyler, I just can't in good faith see what Kyler does better as like a thrower outside of maybe just raw like arm strength.
I think Kyler's a really underrated thrower. Like like really good thrower. Like he's a big time play guy. Like that's just what he does. Deep down the field, like he's got a strong arm. Like he's short, and that's always like the narrative with the short quarterbacks. The same thing is going to be with Bryce Love, that they can't throw him middle of the field, but he can.
He can. My main issue with Kyler is his durability. I am like pretty concerned with his ability to stay healthy. And yeah, you could bring that up with Dak, but I think Dak's was a bit more of like a freakish thing. And he even said it himself, and I don't like this narrative. And it's that the whole ankle injury he had. He even said it himself. It didn't really affect him at all. So I think it was just more of a mental or scheming issue, because I think Kellen Moore did get a lot worse as the year went on. Had a good start. I do not think
Kellen Moore is good.
I think he had a good start to the year, but he got but I think maybe he got figured out, if you get what I mean.
He's
I also want to throw this out with Dak. I need to, excuse me, I'm trying to filter here on Dak had the highest passing grade of any quarterback under pressure last season. There's that as well. And it was not even close.
I think that's volatile.
Yeah, that's not what you want.
Like, I think, I don't know. I'm not looking at it currently. But I think Kyler probably had a better passing grade last year overall. I think Kyler had probably like the third or fourth best. Kyler, he was like 7.1 big time throw percentage, I think. I don't know in a clean pocket either, but like, I mean, pressure is like, I mean, that was the biggest thing with Herbert, and obviously he overcame, like, he's insane under pressure, and that's just a trait he has. But over time, like, generally speaking, like, being good under pressure is a very volatile year-to-year thing, because if people aren't open and you're under pressure, like, you're just going to throw it away. And
yeah, that's fair. Yeah. And look, I get there's the volatility, but I just wanted to point that out. I also think you look at 2020 when the entire O-line was hurt before he went down. he was extremely
He was really good. I think that probably would have been his best season had he stayed healthy.
Yeah.
Definitely his
I
best
agree.
start.
That was unfortunate, but I look at it this way, because I want to answer the question ultimately rather than debate, Dak, Kyler. That's not exactly for right now. I'm on the like conviction that I would like with 100% not 100, but you get what I mean. Like with great degree of confidence, I'm taking Dak over Kyler. Lamar and Russell Wilson are where things get pretty interesting for me.
I think Kyler's better than Lamar.
Wow.
I don't know. I like Lamar a lot, but
I think Lamar could be the best quarterback in the league had the Ravens prioritized teaching him how to pass the ball, because they are very heavy. Greg Roman is the best run scheme guy in the league, but his pass scheme is awful, like worse than Nagy, worse than anyone I've ever seen. He has no clue what he's doing, and it's clear to me that they prioritized making him a runner. Shouldn't have done that. His MVP season was unbelievable. They could have kept going with that. Made him a little bit better of a passer, because obviously he's going to get figured out a little bit, but they kept him one-dimensional. Still top 10 quarterback just based off his talent alone. But his passing is just not high enough for me to be like, I think Kyler's a much better passer. I don't think his legs are that much worse, and that's why I think Kyler's better than Lamar.
All right. And
I just want to mention, sorry for cutting you off. I looked at PFF Greenline and where they have quarterbacks against the spread, and the two quarterbacks that were 6 points against the spread are Dak Prescott and Matthew Stafford. So they think those two are in a tier of their own, which is what you said.
I agree with them.
It's a little funny, but keep going, Ethan.
Okay, so I think the big thing. So I want to answer the question: can you win a Super Bowl with Dak? I think you absolutely can. I actually think that he's a good ways better than Stafford still as well. I think he put Dak on last year's Rams, and I think that a lot of those nail biter games that they had, other than like the Tampa one because Stafford was on his game for that one, a lot of those nail biters I don't think are nail biters if you put him on the Rams and whatnot. I think the Bengals get blown away. I don't know about the Niners because they did good at getting to him, but at the same time, he was pressured like 25 times that game. I don't know how much of them were, his own fault. Sure, there were a few just going off the eye test, but the O-line was absolutely terrible. I will forever never forgive Cedric Wilson for dropping that fourth down ball, because that would have been like pretty iconic if he caught it. I think, we're talking about, can you win a Super Bowl with him? You can, but I guess that's going to bring, the next point we kind of had down, about the state of the Cowboys and how well run they are as an organization. I think that they are in their scouting and drafting department, but I think in terms of the Jones family, when it comes to player retention, managing the cap and such, I think they are on the bottom tier of doing that. They are really bad at that, and that's going to cost us a chance, which is insane when you think about the luck we've had with getting starting quarterbacks, the insane probability of Tony Romo being as good as he was as a UDFA, Dak Prescott being as good as he was as a fourth rounder. We're going to absolutely waste that because they can't manage the salary cap. They don't know how to manage the salary cap.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I think the Cowboys are a little bit they fall victim a bit to like the same issue that a lot of teams with past success do, where they get stuck in their ways kind of. And like the Cowboys are unique, and I think the Steelers are like this too, where like they actually did do some pretty creative things. I think like before even like 2000, like assigning value to draft picks is like a pretty revolutionary idea, like recognizing that like it is a market with these things, and there is like a hypothetical value attached to it. It's just that when you arbitrarily assign these numbers, they kind of suck. But obviously the I forget, I'm blanking on the name of the scale, but the draft pick scale is a very revolutionary idea. And I'd imagine the Cowboys, they kind of got complacent in their general managing that has worked. But I think especially when it comes to the cap and scouting, is where you kind of see that, because they have drafted well. And I wonder how much of it is luck and how much of it is like, okay, they actually do have these good systems in place as far as scouting goes. and have been able to find good guys. And if they have, then they have this reason to kind of stick by their policies, and not kind of listen to the more analytical way of thinking, which I think is tough, because this is, I mean, look, this is obviously probably the most, this is the nepotism sports organization, right? Like the Jones family is going to own this team forever, probably. And there needs to be a Jones along the way that, you know, is kind of forward thinking and is willing to adopt a more, you know, Ravens type of approach to building a team. And I think it'll happen eventually. I think, you know, the Cowboys could go through a period of struggle if they get too stuck in their ways, because for now I think they are pretty advanced, or not advanced, but they're kind of middle of the pack in terms of how well they're run. But I think that's just because they've been a well-run team for so long, and that the league could easily surpass them within these next 5 years, and then they're kind of going to be stuck in the past.
That's what I was thinking, is that my big fear with the team is that we're only going to have maybe like 7-8 more years of, you know, Dak, which we're approaching the halfway point of his career, which is kind of crazy to think about. It could go longer, you know, you never know. You never truly know what happens. But I think the thing that scares me is when he retires, because by then we're already going to be looking at, you know, maybe Micah Parsons has gone through his prime and whatnot. We're going to be looking at a very dire situation potentially, and that's what that time down the road is what scares me, and that's why I really want to see the team win now. And I was going to talk about, you know, from an outside looking in perspective, it feels like they're throwing away this season to gear up better for next year and beyond. Do you know what I mean? So, you know, you look at Dak, and there was like a thing where he was like it was like PFF Mu, I think, and he did like an adjustment of like EPA per play for things like QBs can control, and Dak was like top 3 in that metric, I think. You know, that was encouraging. Getting back onto the point, what was it? To me, it looks like they were just flushing all the money away, just giving away Amari Cooper. Obviously, the Randy Gregory breakdown that happened, but it looks like they're flushing all the money away. It looks like we're going to have a lot of space. We have like 30 million in space right now. We're going to have a lot going into next year. We're going to have a lot of space to be very aggressive next offseason. You know, we're also going to have, you know, we're going to have not like a great surplus of picks, but we're going to have some comp picks, and we haven't really traded anything substantial away. And to me, it looks like this year is it's going to be a wash. Maybe this is just the Jones saying, Mike McCarthy, make it work, and if you can't, you're gone. And if you know, maybe hopefully we'll get Sean Payton in, that would be amazing. That would save this team.
He's a bear, so.
Sorry, you're stuck with Eberflus.
Stuck? What do you mean?
Stuck.
Yeah, well, because we're getting
blessed.
Sean Payton.
Yeah.
No,
he's going to be the OC.
Yeah, Sean Payton's going to take an offensive coordinator job with the Chicago Bears.
You don't like Getsy or
no, he's leaving after this year.
He's going to have a head coaching job after this year. Yeah. Come on, the lore's already set in place.
All right, I see it. So, anyways, look. So the big thing with I think the big thing is that we're looking at next year with a lot of cap space. We could be looking at even more, because it's very possible that Tyron Smith can retire. I don't know for sure. We'll see what happens. But we can look at a team that has the cap space to make rooms and strengthen in a lot of places. I think in particular, we need to improve on the trenches. I think that you look at the guys we rely on right now in the trenches, they're all around 30 or older. I mean, Zach Martin's like 30, DeMarcus Lawrence is like 31. We have to get that revamp going on those trenches. And so maybe we're starting to do so. And honestly, like I said earlier, I actually kind of like that we let Randy Gregory go. Yeah, you know, not in the short run, but in the long run. But it's a crazy thing. But yeah, I don't think I think the Cowboys are a well-run organization. Whatever they let Will McClay do, which I think is a lot of drafting.
I like Will McClay.
I think he's smart. A lot of teams want him, but the Jones family, for whatever reason, they're pretty good at keeping him there. So I think he has.
The Bears did interview him.
He has a lot more power in the Cowboys organization than I think people will give him credit for. And I think a lot of the good that comes out of it is from Will McClay. I don't know. I think, like I said, middle tier, really good drafting, questionable in terms of the market. And I'm pretty scared when Jerry Jones dies because Stephen Jones seems very cheap because he seems to be the talking piece when it comes to releasing players to make big money. And I think that is a reflection of him more than is Jerry. And so that scares me a bit.
Well, freeing up cap is never a bad thing to me.
It isn't, but is getting rid of Amari Cooper to give Michael Gallup a big extension the smart thing? I don't know.
I don't think getting rid of Amari Cooper was a bad deal.
I think
what would Ryan Poles do is what I ask myself.
And now it's trade Amari Cooper. Although if the Bears had Amari Cooper and he got traded and going to Justin Fields' second year, I would not be very happy. Anyway, we're talking about the Cowboys for like an hour now.
Yeah,
we gotta move on here.
We gotta move on.
But there's a lot to talk about. With the Cowboys. But
I think we're the most interesting, controversial team in the league, like always. People are either gonna hate us or they're gonna love us, and it'll be fun to play out.
And
social media will make my life hell.
Well, I think the 2-15 Bears will be a little bit more of a focus point this season, but to each their own. So next up, we have a secret favorite team of the NFL Nerds podcast, the Philadelphia Eagles. This is a fun team to me. They've made some great moves over the past couple seasons. Sorry, Ethan, but just a team to blush over how well they've really turned it around.
I agree that their roster was really well constructed. Mm-hmm. And honestly,
Ethan, the Browns are not a good example of the 2021 Browns are not a good example.
First, I wasn't even going to bring that up, actually. I actually completely forgot about that comparison. So that's your own fault. I was going to say, I feel pretty stupid, like, going into last year, rating them as low as I did. Because I remember when the season first ended, I was like, you know what? I mean, they have a lot of pieces that could make them, like, I feel like maybe they can regress back up, like, have a positive regression back up and not be this total bottom three.
Well, everyone thought Jalen Hurts was going to be the worst quarterback in the league by a far margin.
Yeah,
and he was not. He's been worth this pick for. I love what the Eagles have done. We talked about we're going to talk about the Chargers.
So
but I was talking about how much I love the Chargers. I might love the Eagles even more. Like the way that they have built their team is just like, oh my God, you're in 2020. Like I'm sitting there in March, like where they want to trade Carson Wentz. Sorry, 33 mil cap hit, dead cap. Like, oh my God, what a terrible spot. They're going into the season last year. Like they have pieces. They got Kelsey. They got Mailata, who became like the best left tackle in football after Trent Williams and Tyron Smith. Lane Johnson, like they have these pieces. Devonta Smith's a good piece, but their defense is kind of lacking. Like Jalen Hurts is like, who is Jalen Hurts? Like going into last year, like I thought him and Tua were going to be like far and away the worst quarterbacks in the league. Tua, he was like average. Like he was good. Like not good, not great, but he was solid, good enough for them to make the playoff. Now they're sitting with these like all these picks that they've acquired and a true wide receiver one that they just paid that they got from one of those picks they acquired from the Saints from trading down 2 spots. And they have Goddard, who's a great tight end. They have, like I said, 2 great wide receivers. They're running back, whatever. Probably the best offensive line in football by like a decent margin. Like that's just how well they built. Landon Dickerson was a great pick. They're probably going to lose Jason Kelsey, but I love Cam Jurgens. Like I wanted the Bears to take him. Like he's going to be great when he comes in for them. And that defense is well built too. Like how he's making moves. Like they just got Chauncey Gardner-Johnson, who I hate, but he's a good player. Darius Slay's great. James Bradbury is really good. So that's a good pickup. Like they built like one of the better rosters. And in the event and in the probable event Jalen Hurts is not good enough this year, like they have all the picks and everything to go trade up for Bryce Young or CJ Stroud and probably be like, maybe not next year, but the year after that, like a Super Bowl favorite. Like seriously, like I think that's how good their roster is. So I'm gonna go over 9.5, which is the line. I think they win the division.
Before this, I want to comment. I'm secretly, no one else needs to hear this. I'm actually a diehard Chargers fan. They're actually my ball club. So, I'll look through like the Eagles schedule real quick.
I think it's top 5 easy. Same with the Cowboys, like easy schedules. They just traded away Jalen Reagor too. They actually got draft capital from some dumb team that was willing to give it up and dropped probably a better wide receiver in Amiri Smith-Marset.
I'm gonna go with the over, and holy shit, I just went through this and I'm like scarily thinking. I said Dallas might go 11. I might have Philly with 12. I feel disgusting just saying that out loud.
Their schedule's so easy.
They have the 4th easiest schedule in the league.
Don't the Bears have the 3rd?
Right now they have the 8th. I don't know. I thought it was 3rd, earlier. I
saw some PFF play. Literally.
Yeah. So what I was thinking was I was gonna say I think that Nick Sirianni is a top tier head coach. Just going off last year, I think he's great. I think he's a good bet for coach of the year. Honestly,
no, he definitely is. I don't know if he's a good coach though.
I don't know. You look at what happened, start of the year, the Eagles were struggling. He made the necessary adjustments and their offense was absolutely going. Most dominant run game in the league last season. Large part thanks to that offensive line, having a quarterback like Hurts who can run and as good as Hurts does. And then obviously, they're running backs, there's talent, even though there's lacks consistency, but the O-line will make up for that. You plug in Sanders, you plug in Gainwell, who I like a lot, and that offensive line will make sure that they get those runs through. I think Sirianni is pretty awesome. I think that, the Eagles were pretty blessed to have done as well as they did, replacing someone as good as Doug Peterson with Sirianni. We're talking about Howie Roseman. I think that Howie Roseman is, he's a good GM. He won that Super Bowl for a reason. And, his reputation took a tank for a year because of a couple draft picks and his failures at that wide receiver position, which really
Wentz was the big one. And then he went Rager right after that. That was just a bad.
I think Wentz was a big one, but to be fair, him getting as much as he did for Wentz was
crazy. It's crazy. And then another team, I can't believe the Commanders just traded almost the same. Well, not really. Yeah, wait, the Eagles got a first for. Oh my god.
Yeah,
and the Colts just got 2/3 or something.
The Colts can get the Colts could get a second.
The Commanders,
they could get a
Carson
second.
Wentz, oh my god, holy shit.
Yeah. With that contract. So, the Wentz thing was ugly, but it was resolved so quickly that I didn't really hold that against him too much. But people really held against him missing on DK Metcalf, and it's not talked about as much, but there was also McLaurin and Deontay Johnson on the board too as well in that moment, missing on Justin Jefferson.
Can you imagine this team with Justin Jefferson?
Yeah, but if they get Justin Jefferson, though, would Devontae or AJ Brown even be on the team?
It doesn't matter.
Maybe.
It might be better for them. They have the best wide receiver in football. They can go draft a quarterback or something. I don't know.
They could have had.
They could have drafted Fields.
Yeah,
seriously, they would have been picking at 10.
Maybe Dallas is way more hesitant to move down with that.
Yeah, but who's gonna know? Howie Roseman. Oh, we're gonna take
that's fair.
Devontae Smith, and then
just kidding.
But they also originally picked at 6, right? And they traded back to 12.
That's
so
true.
If they really liked Fields,
actually they didn't. They wanted Zach Wilson and they traded down because
that's what it was.
They didn't.
Although I know Luke likes Zach Wilson, so I'll be nice.
I like Zach Wilson. I like Zach Wilson.
Just wait.
But let's get back on the Eagles. I got to give credit for Howie Roseman. He knows his quarterback evaluation wanted the guy Zach Wilson, but
wrong. Should have stayed and taken Justin Fields.
But look, I'm gonna also go with the over. It pains me. I think the Eagles are great. And they're I wish the Cowboys were as well run outside of the whole debacle of your franchise quarterback falling apart and everything. And then but they've recovered really well. They were looking at almost the best case scenario. The only thing that would make it even better is Jalen Hurts taking a massive step forward. But yeah, if anyone else hasn't done the over/under, I'll let you go.
Yeah, I think this team is in the over. However, I think the most impressive part about all this is just that their win total is set 9.5. I mean, like this team last year, I thought was in a desolate place.
What were they last year? Probably like 5, right?
Like 5, and Hurts was looking like the worst quarterback in the league, like coming off the year before. And it was like, I mean, I was so low on this team. I was like, they need to figure it out. But I liked that they were giving Hurts another year because, you know, I was like, he's a second round rookie. They'll pay a quarterback nothing for a year and get like a top 5 pick or whatever. But I mean, man, Hurts was pretty good, and like not like good, not even like
not good enough. But yeah,
no, not good enough. Definitely not good enough. Not someone who you can win a Super Bowl with at all, to me at least. But he is someone who you can definitely win a playoff game with. And I mean, this team has just been able to turn around so quickly. I have to say, like, what a way from Howie Roseman to just admit his own mistakes and get out of the hole that he dug himself into. And it's not even like, I think he was good at recognizing that the mistakes weren't necessarily things he could even control, you know, like Jalen Reagor just stunk. So he moved off and, you know, got his capital.
Yep.
Wentz was bad, and, you know, it hurts to move off the quarterback you drafted number 2 that almost had a MVP season that you gave a second contract. Like that's your child at that point, and just to like be willing to trade him is like a big deal, and he did it. And
end up getting AJ Brown out of it, basically.
You basically get AJ Brown out of it.
I joke with my friends that the Colts and the Jaguars successfully conspired to get AJ Brown out of Tennessee.
Exactly. But it just shows how, like, when you're making like the right decisions in a vacuum, you're putting your team in a better place. You know, it doesn't really matter. Like, yes, decisions need context, but more importantly, if you're constantly making the right decisions, then you're going to have your roster in a good place. And I mean, when I look at this PFF page, it's the most green page I see. It's like everywhere is like a good to like above average players. And that's just like, this is a great supporting cast for Jalen Hurts, who they're paying to be a second round quarterback. Like that is the best part about this team. They're paying him nothing, so they can go spend on everywhere else, and they're probably not going to pay him past this year. They're probably going to give themselves the cap space this year, next year, to give bigger contracts, to give the rookie that they're going to draft next year like a good team to play with. Like this team is set up well for the future. They're building really well. I mean, AJ Brown and Devontae Smith is quickly going to become one of the best wide receiver duos in the league. AJ Brown is already a top 10 receiver. Devontae Smith, I mean, he's cold. Not much more to say there. This offensive line, as you touched on, really, really good. Dallas Goedert's incredible. And the defense, I mean, the defense has its issues, but like it's just average to above average. It's just average enough everywhere that I feel like it can hold up, and it's not like you're gonna bet on this defense to be bad going into the season.
One of the things that you said, like Rich Gannon, like it's like thoughts on Rich Gannon. Rich Gannon is like an interesting. I feel
he was really good last year.
So I have like a pretty interesting take. I feel like he'd be a better head coach than he would be a defensive coordinator. And the reason why
he is young is the issue.
And the reason I say that is because I actually think he's a very good player developer. I think he's like very good with that. I think his schemes, like what he draws up, is good. From what I've seen and these are complaints that I would have about him from both watching like some of the games that the Eagles have been in, and also from word of mouth from their fans, which, you know, not the most reliable, probably some of the least, but still. I would say that Rich Gannon as a play caller is not that great. And that's kind of why I think he'd be a better head coach than he would be a DC, because you get him in those roles where he does the development, he still draws up plays, but he gives the play calling somewhere else. That's like maximizing his output in a way, to me.
I think he was. They didn't have much talent coming into the year on that defense, hence the 3, 4, 5 win predictions. And I think he did a good job with that talent. It'll be a nice test for him this year to see if he can continue it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I mean Nick Sirianni, I didn't touch on him, but that I such an interesting hire last year. I mean, really, I was under the impression that they missed out on whoever they wanted and kind of
Yeah, right.
just hired Sirianni to fire him the year after, to kind of reevaluate the head coaching class. But I mean, man, he coached himself into keeping his job for sure, and there's no reason to move off him now.
I actually thought that he was their main guy, and the reason I thought this was it was somewhat of the reverse logic of why the Colts considered Wentz. I think they wanted to pick a guy off from Frank Reich's tree because they saw the success Reich had with them and after them. So that's kind of why I thought they got Sirianni.
Yeah, I think Sirianni was definitely the most interesting hire out of last year's head coaching carousel. I mean, I didn't know him before. I don't think many people did, but
Did not even call plays in Indianapolis.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, he's an interesting one. But all right. Last question on the Eagles here. Obviously Jalen Hurts is a pretty good quarterback and had a pretty good season last year, but pretty good doesn't really cut it in the NFL. So I'd say two-parter question. One, how good does Hurts need to be in order to be the starter next year? And two, how likely do you think he is to be that good?
His type of play style is like he's not gonna ever be like in like that Kirk, Stafford, Dak tier. So he's gonna have to be a top 10 quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
Or else it's at the point where like I'm giving up and I'm saying bye and I'm going to draft the guy. Like I mean, will he be a top 10 quarterback? 95% chance. No. I just don't think he has the tools to be that. And maybe if he has a top 10 quarterback season, I don't think he has the tools to be a consistent one. So it's a really tough spot for the Eagles with him. I think it would be way better for them if he was just like a mediocre again. If he has like a borderline top 10 season, it's going to be like, and if he sucks, then they're going to be bad. And it's kind of going to be like kind of a wasted season, but not really. But I mean, he wasn't really good last year. They still won 9 games. So yeah, he got to be top 10. I don't think it'll happen.
I think Hurts takes a small jump, just not the jump, if you get what I mean. Like he'll give it better, but just not like good enough still. I think it's really interesting to me because I think I agree. I think that for Hurts to get a second contract, he needs to become at the very least that kind of like Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins level QB. And even then, I'm not sure if it guarantees it. But I think personally, I look at the way Hurts is. I actually think the chances of him being the starter next year are still substantially higher because I think that even though the Eagles have a flush of draft capital, I just don't see Bryce Young or CJ Stroud being someone you can trade up for. I think they're going to be even though I think Will Anderson Jr. is generational, I think those are the top 2 picks, unless either of them have a stock drop off. But then in that case, it's like a valid, thing.
I'd be shocked if Will Anderson didn't go 1 overall. Especially because I think it's going to be a team like the Bears that pick near there.
It just depends on who's picking there. But I think
it always does, yeah.
I think the main point I have is that I can't see them get Stroud. I can't see them get Young. And with that, you're evaluating the rest of the class. And you're now thinking, is it worth it to really make that jump for one of those guys? And obviously next year we'll tell. I think it's just too early to gauge the probability of that, because it's not even just how well Hurts plays, it's just how the next year's class looks. Is there going to be enough guys to make a move up possible? Because for me right now, it's really just those two. I think there are guys that have upside, Levis, Richardson, Van Dyke, but they could just as easily just not be good and not justify a high selection at all. So I don't know. I think it's just too soon when we don't really know how the rest of that QB class is looking. And for all we know, we don't know how the Eagles and him will progress. So that's interesting. And so we'll see. I think the strength of the next year's QB class, it's too soon to truly know, to really give, for me to feel confident in giving an answer.
Yeah, I think those 2 guys have a good chance of going 1 and 2. They're really they're about as good as you can get with top 2 quarterback prospects in a class. But moving on now to the nation's capital, the new and improved Washington Commanders, led by Riverboat Ron. Their win total is set at 8. Alon, how you feel about 8?
I'm gonna push 8. It's tough because as much as I really hate Carson Wentz, they did upgrade at quarterback by a solid amount. Like Taylor Heineke's just that bad. But I just I hate Wentz. I just think he's so bad.
Yeah, no, I agree. Wentz is really tough because it's clearly just like a bridge gap quarterback again for this team.
Right.
But they paid so much for him. It's insane to me how they just felt like they could do that.
Yeah, it doesn't make any sense.
It makes no sense. They've done it. They did 2 straight off seasons now where they basically they decided not to trade up for Fields, picking a pick ahead of the Bears, and now they're still paying for it, I guess. They went with Ryan Fitzpatrick last year, and going with Wentz this year. Bad teams are run like that.
I think the thing of them in the trade up for Fields, I just don't think that I feel like they probably just weren't in the mood to just go up in general. I don't know. Because even then, because they still could have, even, and this would have still been better, even if it's not Fields, they still could have gone back if they wanted to as well. That would have been a good pick for them. But I think the thing about their situation is that I think it's partially bad luck as well as it is incompetence. I think, what we're looking at, if Dak never gets hurt, we're looking at them being in a premium spot to get Fields or Mac Jones without having to trade up now. And that changes things a lot. We were talking about the Eagles and the what ifs, and I think that's valid for them. And obviously, in 2020, at that point, Haskins was only a year in. Things were looking bad, but we had no idea how much worse they would get. And Young was looking like a slam dunk pick at that moment. So I can't fault them for passing on a QB. And even then, the consensus at the time was Tua. So, that's in itself, sure. So, I don't know. I think their situation with Wentz, I think it's a pretty bad trade. It's a move you shouldn't make. But at the same time, it's to me, it just looks like they're trying to appeal to the fans and make things look, hey, things aren't this bad anymore. You don't have to watch Taylor Heineke this year, which,
yeah,
I don't know. But for that terrible contract, I don't know. I want to say this is Wentz's last chance to prove himself as a starter, even though, I think he won't get that chance. But I feel like teams are just going to keep giving him more at this point. I don't know.
I feel like Wentz has already kind of proven himself not to be a starter, to be honest. And I don't know, maybe that's bold of me to assume, but I think he's not a top 25 quarterback in the league. And I guess that maybe makes him a starter, but with rookies coming in, I don't see why a team next year would let him start. I guess he's one of the better bridge gap QBs at this point in the league, but I'd rather have Baker on my team. I think he's
especially with the price tag.
Yeah, for sure.
And Baker's going to get paid too. I think is this his 5th year option? No, this is his 5th year option.
This is the 5th year option.
Yeah.
Getting paid the same. They're both mediocre, but he's on a 1-year deal as opposed to multiple.
And to be fair, Baker was injured to shit. There's upside to a healthy Baker, like we saw in 2020. And will he hit it? Probably not, but it exists.
I was very big on the Baker Mayfield will never be close to good enough to win a Super Bowl train. I think it was last offseason. I was like that style of quarterback, and yeah, I do not think Baker's good. And I do not think he'll ever win a Super Bowl as a starter. At least.
I think this Washington team pushes as well. Actually, I think Washington has done something pretty bad where I actually don't care about their individual team season to season at all. And I think that kind of speaks to the general NFL fan public too, because this team has not been interesting for some time, and I don't really see them being that interesting until they get a quarterback. Yet they still continue to throw out these how do I put it nicely, quarterbacks who clearly should not start on rosters that are willing that are capable of winning Super Bowls with like a really, really good quarterback. But it's just that this is what happens when you build such a good defense and you don't get a quarterback first. You just are stuck clawing to get a chance at a good quarterback, and you just can't. It's so hard to have a good roster and get a good quarterback. Exactly. That's any team would be so lucky to be graced by the hands of Mitch.
By Mitch and Nick Foles and
I was also going to mention, because we were talking about the Commanders quarterback situation, it came out that they actually made a very competitive offer for Russell Wilson.
Yeah, not sure. Yeah, that would have been a good one. He didn't want to go.
And it got rejected because Seattle did not want to trade him within the NFC. They wanted to.
And I don't think Russ wanted to go there either.
I think he's actually from Virginia. I don't think it's possible he could have wanted to waive. I don't know. But we can't really say for sure. And it also came out that the thing that stopped them from trading from Deshaun or making an offer was the fact that their PR was already so bad that they just could not do it.
Their PR is quite bad.
Yeah. They're interesting in the uninteresting ways. I think that's
what for sure
makes. I think they're a good case study. They're always a good team to kind of keep an eye on as kind of what not to do.
Exactly.
But I do think I think this team's problems are pretty organizational and kind of just systemic. I think people kind of actually underrate how important ownership is for all sports organizations, and especially football, because the cap is kind of owner independent. You see teams that are terribly run struggle to win, and it's a common theme. And this is why the Rams are so successful, and the Eagles too. It starts at ownership.
The Cronkies.
The Cronkies. They're playing with monopoly, and they're willing to just do whatever they need to win.
The Cronkies are taking Arsenal to the top.
Yeah, exactly.
The top of fucking the Europa League.
Respect the 5-0 start.
Imagine losing to Man United. Couldn't be Arsenal.
But this Washington team, I think 8 wins is pretty fair for them. I think their defense is good enough to win them a good amount of games. And I actually really like the Jahan Dotson pick. I know that was kind of contentious, but I thought that was a fine pick, despite being kind of a reach. I thought he was really good talent.
I didn't like it. I wish he would have fallen to the Bears.
I like Dotson. I thought that I like him as a player. The thing is to me, and I was like a very big Treylon Burks guy, so to take Dotson with Burks on the board, if I was like if let's say I was like a scout, I did watch a good bit of film, but obviously,
so not to the level, scout.
But not to the level that these guys are,
Top tier scout.
Yeah.
I don't think Ryan Pace ever watched film, so.
Hey, all right, I'm better than Ryan.
He only looked at the data.
All right, but you look at
the completion percentage.
I guess the point I'm trying to make is there are some concerns about Burks and his asthma and whatnot that have come out after the draft. Just based on the information I've had at it, taking Dotson over Burks to me is an unforgivable offense, because I thought Burks was like my second wide receiver on my board.
Wow.
I was that high on him.
Yeah, they always have these weird injuries. Like Tevin Jenkins, I thought was the steal of the draft, and this guy had a bad back that nobody knew about. So I'm sure Treylon Burks' issues are probably somewhat real. Although I do agree with you, I think he is a good amount more talented than
they are real, but
Drake London but definitely Jahan Dotson.
They are real, but at the same time, he only went one pick later, so it doesn't seem like it's that severe,
Yeah. I will say this team has, I think, done a pretty good job at setting up for the next quarterback, at least at this point. This offensive line is pretty good.
They were the fourth rated O-line. I think.
Mhm.
I think the Commanders' O-line is like one of the most underrated units in the
No, it's
league.
shitty. Their left tackle is gonna turn into a turnstile this year. You're gonna have a 50 PFF grade. I've seen this show before. Like Charles Leno is like one good year, one terrible year. Like I don't even care. Like it's gonna happen. The dude is
Charles
terrible.
Leno
Like I don't
show
care. I
is-
don't care. Yeah, I fucking hate him.
That's a lot of what this is
They have-
contingent on.
They have a lot of depth from what I remember.
They do.
though.
Cornelius Lucas too, former Bear.
They have
turned into a
Lucas
really
and-
good tackle. I don't know.
and then they also have-
their offensive line coaches for what
And
the
then they
whatever he's
also
doing.
have what's his face. I really like him coming out of the draft and a good rookie year.
Sam Cosmi. Yeah, he's good.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was able to move to right tackle because Leno decided to be like elite. Like what the fuck?
Yeah, that was pretty terrible. I mean,
Whatever.
Fucking classic Bears. But this team, I think they were in a lot worse of a position last year. And I think they've kind of goofed up a lot more within like 2019, 2020. They really just kind of fumbled the bag here. I think they had an opportunity to make this team, maybe compete, but people wonder why Carson Wentz is starting for them and their win total set at 8, but it's because this is what happens when you're bad at making decisions for 3 years.
Yeah, pretty much. And it's just weird. It feels like to me you look at their draft history, they really overdid it with their and don't get me wrong, the results are good in the void, ignoring the context of the quarterbacking, but they kind of overdid it with their stacking that D line. That's kind of one of the things that I look at it as.
Yeah, and I mean
as good as Allen, Young, and Sweat are.
Like, what are you doing drafting Jamin Davis in the first round, dude? Like, you have so many needs.
Jack had heart issues, and then the win them was way better.
Yeah. But yeah, this team just they have organizational issues. Obviously, you're drafting a linebacker in the first round in 2021.
And we're just talking on field too. Off field, I mean, Dan Snyder, he's a complete shit show. He might get forced out if he really hit tax stuff
human being.
Yeah.
If he really hid tax stuff from the other owners, they're out for blood.
Yeah.
And let me briefly mention how terrible of a nickname Riverboat Ron is. I mean, when you have Brandon Staley in the league and you're calling this guy Riverboat Ron for how risky he is, you gotta it's time to scrap it. He's risky in an NFL of the past. But I mean, all due respect to Ron Rivera, he's a very good head coach. Great guy.
And he was a Bear.
Former Bear.
Yes, former Bear.
So
fun
85 Bear, right?
I think so, yeah.
So fun story. My dad and I passed Ron Rivera one time, by a Target. This is a Target, Luke. And the next season, the Panthers went 15-1. So Ron Rivera needs to see me. He needs to see me if he wants the Commanders to be successful.
I don't think you want him
the scouting. All right, moving on to the final team of the NFC East. We have the biggest market, lovely New York City. You can see it outside the window here. The New York Giants. This team has.
Wait, I don't think I gave my over/under on Washington.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, give your over.
I'll just do that quickly. I'm gonna go with a slight under.
Slight under, okay.
Like maybe 6 or 7 wins, but
6 or 7. That's fair. Yeah, that I think that holds up. But yeah, the Commanders are a weird team, but middle of the pack. Similar to the Giants here. And that is reflected in their win total of 7. So Ethan, what do you think about 7 for the Giants?
I'm gonna look at their schedule. I feel okay, but looking at what I had before, and I don't think
they have the easiest schedule in the league.
Okay, so let's see. I'm gonna go with the under, to be honest. Still, even though, and I just think, to me, when you look at their for example, the division games, I feel like there's a substantial chance they might just win only one game in the division against maybe a Washington split. Philadelphia and Dallas, they both have proven success against New York, and obviously that's been shitty New York teams, but that doesn't change too much, and I think that'll continue. I mean, Dak has not lost to the Giants since the Obama administration. Philadelphia is a place where New York can never win, and they've beat them at home the past 2 years, but the Eagles are better than they were the past 2 years by, I'd say, a substantial mark now. I think that what was, before, so I think their division record isn't just going to improve. And then you look at the rest of their schedule, I don't think they can, with the South, I don't think they can take Tennessee. I don't think they can take Indy. Houston and Jacksonville are games that, they could win them. I think they'd certainly be favored against Houston. Jacksonville, we'll see. I like Doug Peterson enough to say I'd feel good about the Jaguars winning that. But at the same time, it's like, yeah, there's that. And then, obviously we have the NFC North, and then, the Bears Lions will be a fun shit show, I guess. But not Bears, Bears Giants. But I just can't see them beating Detroit, Minnesota, or even, obviously Green Bay. And so to me, it's like, I think they're going to be very much more watchable, look a lot better, be more impressive than they were last season, but I just don't think it'll show in their record. I think obviously they're stronger in the trenches. Kayvon Thibodeau's a big get. Evan Neal's a big get. This is going to be the best offensive line you've ever had Saquon run behind. I think Brian Dable, he's a good play drawer. He was a pretty poor play caller. I feel like people don't recognize this enough, but he's not going to be. It's like what I said about Gannon earlier, being a better head coach than the DC. I think this will suit him better as well, and I think he'll do wonders for scheming them. I just am not sure their receivers are going to be relatively healthy. I mean, Kadarius Toney is talented, but this guy's going to be playing in the field conditions of FedEx for 8 games, maybe 9, and then also not FedEx. I mean, MetLife, and then he has to go on a road game to FedEx with his injury history. That's just it's kind of an ugly thing to imagine. Obviously, looks like Golladay isn't favored at all by the staff. Could be a cut candidate for next season. And Daniel Jones is just forever interesting because there are things that he does well, but he's just not enough, obviously. And so to me, it's
OG Daniel Jones truther right here.
So, I think with the state of the Giants, it's just going to be like they can win 4 to 6. It'll be under 7. But I think it's still going to be a year of progress for them. I think it'll be a year that their fans will be like, yeah, we lost a lot of games. At the same time, we're going to have a premium pick to look forward to. And the team is watchable now. You could tell that there's a direction now. Shane and Dale, much clearer direction than when Gettleman had his pair of head coaches. The fact that he lasted as long as he did is crazy. And in a year's time, things will be interesting because I think there will be optimism no matter what. I just think the degree will be dependent because I think we're going to start looking at which survivors thus far of the Gettleman regime that are transitioning in, who is going to survive even further in. Because, there's a substantial chance, like I said, if Kadarius Toney's injury issues are consistent enough, we could be looking at the Giants possibly thinking, well, he might not be a highly valued member of the team anymore. We can't rely on him. And that would put a damper in potential optimism, but maybe he can play well enough to where it doesn't. We'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I am also going to take the under. I am like Luke. I do like Daniel Jones. I think he's got a really good deep ball. That's always been the case. And if there's anyone that can unlock him, it's Brian Dable. But really, it's year 4 now for him. Like, I mean, the probability here that he really finds himself into anything more than what he is right now is low. I don't think Evan Neal is really all that. I think he was a good prospect. I don't know how he's going to transition to the NFL. He looked pretty shitty in preseason.
I liked Ekwonu more out of the draft. Ekwonu was my number one overall guy.
Ekwonu and Charles Cross, I think, are better.
Charles Cross.
I think Andrew Thomas is a great left tackle. I really do think Andrew Thomas is really good. The Golladay thing is weird. Right when they signed, I mean, nobody could have expected him to be this bad. And I did want Golladay on the Bears, to be honest with you. But when they signed him to that big deal, I was like, holy shit, that's an insane overpay. $472. I think at least 60% of it's guaranteed. And he's fallen out of favor. They're paying him a lot of money. I mean, Gettleman is just bad. or was bad, I guess. I like Joe Schoen. He brought Brian Dable with him. I don't even know. I read a report earlier in training camp that Brian Dable wasn't sure if he was going to call plays, and it might be Mike Kafka, who's been the third guy in charge in Kansas City for years, who I don't even think you don't even see with a play sheet usually. So I don't know how that's going to go. It's probably going to be his first time ever calling plays. I think he went to Northwestern. Yeah, Northwestern alum, Mike Kafka. The defense is solid. And Dory Jackson, they signed last offseason. I think last March. He's been solid. They let go of James Bradbury. Kayvon Thibodeau is he's hurt right now. I think he'll be back soon. Obviously, a freak of nature. That was a really good pick, I think. By them. Leonard Williams too is good. Xavier McKinney, good safety. But I just they're the Giants, and they forever in my heart be the Giants, and I think they're going to go under 7 wins because of that. They don't scare me, or shouldn't scare really anybody. I don't know. They're just so weirdly built right now. They're not a team where I'm you can stick a young, good quarterback there and they'd be good. I don't know if they would. But they're building their tackles. Their Kadarius Toney, if he can come into his own, can be really good. Who I really did not like pre-draft. But yeah, I'm gonna go under 7.
I am taking the over on the New York Giants. I think this is an 8 or 9 win team right here, folks. I think people need to stop ignoring how freaking bad Joe Judge and
that's true.
And
that is
Gettleman
true.
are
That's
at their jobs. Those were the 2 worst head coach and GMs in the league on the same team, fired in the same offseason. Going from that to just 0 is incredible. Incredible. And on top of that, I think I like Dable. I think he's more than a 0 at coach. I think you're getting probably a little bit of positive EV from him, and just showing too. I mean, I usually, I always kind of do hate evaluating GMs only one offseason into it because what are you gonna learn? You're not gonna learn anything about the guy from what organization he came from or anything. Honestly, unfortunately. But regardless, I think, at least he's been in the Bills building and probably has some idea of how a competent team is run.
I want to use this time to spread misinformation that he wanted Rosen.
So he did or did not?
That he did.
He did want Rosen. Okay.
That's my misinformation of the day.
It's too bad. But this team in particular, I think, is interesting. I think they are very lucky to have the worst or the easiest schedule in the league. They'll probably be favorites for 7 or so of their games.
You think?
Probably, right? I'd have to go through it, but
I don't know.
Maybe
I will,
5 or 6.
Talk, I will go through it.
I was going through it, and you look at some of these games where it's the quote unquote easiest schedule in the league. It's understandable why. You look at Carolina, you look at Seattle. It's yeah. But on the other hand, there are some teams that would say you'd call this easy, but they're also vastly improved. You're looking at I would feel good about Detroit beating New York in a game. I would feel good about I don't know. I would feel good about your Bears beating them in a game, honestly.
They are -2.5 against the Bears.
That's interesting. I don't know.
We'll see. I think I have a hard time seeing this team only winning 1 interdivision game. I think they'll probably get by with at least 2.
I see 4 games, Luke, but that doesn't include, I don't think, 4. The last 2 weeks.
4. Okay,
they are also, they push against the Commanders.
Okay. They'll be favorites soon. But no, I think this team it's pretty good, and I think, people are expecting. Well, I don't know if that's fair to say, but people, I think, if Daniel Jones were to break out, they expect this to be the season. I think I agree with you, Alon, that we have. To be honest, yeah, we have 3 seasons of data now to the point where it's pretty. His distribution curve for next year is pretty tight. you're probably not. You don't have that super high ceiling that you do with the uncertainty of a first round draft pick with 1 year of data maybe. But I still do think, just Daniel Jones being in this new system is going to be so big for him. Even if it's like just a placebo effect, just to be out of a Joe Judge system is like a Jason Garrett system. Excuse me,
Jason Garrett, like, a Pat Shermer.
Oh my God, dude!
Who's the one? Freddie Kitchens, all of it.
Thank God, like this team has been horribly mismanaged over the last 6 years, and I think
I do feel bad for Daniel Jones.
Yeah, I think people honestly don't really understand how bad Dave Gettleman was at his job. I mean, this guy was like a bozo, really, just sitting there as a GM. He didn't know what he was doing in the modern NFL. And that's what happens to your roster, when you have your decision maker take all the decision making for himself and being a bad decision maker at the end of the day. Like, it's just not a good look. I know Kayvon got banged up on that one play in the preseason. I wonder
he'll be back relatively soon.
Okay.
Yeah,
okay,
so
that's
it's
good to hear.
going to be it might miss a week or two. So I agree that to a certain extent that, like, yeah, getting rid of those guys and just replacing, even if it's 0, is a massive positive. I just think that those two were so bad that and obviously with the coaching that's different, but like with the roster itself, it's Gettleman. I think they were so bad that you're still going to see the negative effects linger on for another year. And I think that'll hold them back, especially with the roster personnel. I think that obviously, Judge was like really, really terrible, but you saw, to me, at the same time, he got worse as last year went on. Like, things just kept progressively getting worse to the point where it's untenable. Obviously it should have been from the start, but like where it was like obvious. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, for me with the under, it's just they have interesting building pieces, and if I was a Giants fan, if I was in their situation, the team success wouldn't matter. I would be rooting for that, to get under that under pretty comfortably, get a high pick, be able to get that franchise QB. What I would want to see is success out of Thomas, Neal, Thibodeau, Tony, those guys that they invested a lot into. Obviously, I think it was said before, didn't love Tony pre-draft. I didn't either. I thought he was way overdrafted. I mean, the talent's there, but like I said, Tony, to me, way too much injury risk. And you look at the fields he's going to be playing on throughout his time in New York, that's a nightmare for health. I mean, playing in MetLife, going to FedEx, that's a nightmare waiting to happen.
Yeah, I mean, I do wonder, because I think the Bears and Giants are kind of interesting to look at as parallels. Both of them getting entire new regimes this offseason from old regimes that were pretty terrible. And Poles made sure to really like get rid of every single Ryan Pace contract on the book. I mean, outside of like really Robert Quinn and like Eddie Jackson, you don't really have anybody left out there getting paid from the Ryan Pace days. Whereas I think the Giants did a little bit of purging, but not nearly to the same extent. And I wonder if this team would be in a better spot if they had really just purged the entire team of all Dave Gettleman contracts. And I mean, I know the defensive line looks pretty good with Leonard Williams, but like,
there's also Azeez Ojulari pretty good too.
I mean,
Ojulari was like my 1B for edge rushers in that draft class. I really liked him.
Yeah, he's pretty good. I wonder if this team could have found a trade partner for Leonard Williams, Adoree Jackson, Kenny Golladay, and if they could have, why they didn't decide to pull the trigger on those trades ultimately, because I don't think those guys really serve much purpose to the current team. And what Joe Schoen is trying to build.
I don't know about Adoree Jackson. I could definitely see maybe why they would like to keep him around. He's 26, which is, I mean, there not a whole lot of his prime left, but there's still some of it left. And, I think the big thing, though, is that whereas I think, purging some of the Pace contracts, there's a lot of value to be had in those trades. I just don't think there was for what Gettleman did. And so, there's a lot of mistakes that Pace made, but I think Gettleman's were ultimately like worse in terms of being able to get rid of them.
Yeah, I mean, they really only got a second for Khalil Mack but and not much else from all those contracts, but they really got rid of everything. And obviously the Giants don't have a player as good as Khalil Mack just to trade away. But if they did, they probably should have. Yeah. Maybe they can go ahead and trade Sterling Shepard for a second.
They're staying for a conditional 7th to Chicago.
Yeah. So this division has kind of been a joke for the past couple of years. But I think it's starting to trend upward.
They are trending upward, at least the top of it.
Yeah. So, Alon, let's start with you. How do you think this division ultimately goes from top to bottom?
Okay, so I will start with the Eagles winning the division, the Cowboys finishing second, with the Commanders finishing third, and the Giants finishing last. Similar to 2017, maybe? I don't know if that's true.
Probably. Yeah, that was just like 2017. Yeah.
Yeah, probably last time it was that.
Ethan, what do you think?
So I kind of already threw it out there that when I looked through their schedules again, I had saying maybe Philly wins 12, Dallas wins 11. And so
you're not going to say it, are you?
But at the same time, I don't want to say it.
that'd be crazy. I was not expecting that.
Yeah, me neither.
So
we're just that good at convincing you.
No, I was just looking through this. This was before. This is like when I just looked fresh at Philly's schedule.
Right after I spoke.
No. I was like I that was like right away. I looked at it, I was like, oh no. So last time I said Philly won the division, I was gonna win the division. Dallas won the division. So maybe I'll try my luck with this roulette again here.
Okay.
That was 2018, by the way. That was when they were defending their Super Bowl, so it was like pretty obvious. I was like, oh yeah, there's no way in hell we're taking it back.
We should have played you guys that year. Maybe it was the Rams actually would have played. Oh wow, it would have destroyed the Cowboys. Anyway.
No, we would have played New Orleans, but you know what? I'm just gonna homer pick it, even though I already admitted otherwise. I was gonna say Dallas won.
Gotta love
it. Philly 2. Commanders 3, Giants 4. I think that the 3 and 4 is pretty obvious to me. And then, when the draft
should be, but you never know with the NFC East.
With the draft first, I was thinking maybe the Giants could pass them, but then I was thinking,
Nope. I know Luke's gonna have the Giants at 3 though, so.
I'm gonna have the Eagles at 1 with 10 wins. I'm gonna have the Cowboys at 2 with 10 wins as well. I think the Eagles win on divisional tiebreaker. Sorry, Salt.
I thought you were gonna say something like the Cowboys win 8 and the Giants win 9. I was ready for that.
That'd be fire.
No, that would not. That would be a nightmare.
But I do have the New York Giants at 3rd with 8 wins, tied with the Commanders at 8 wins, but the Giants get 3rd. Based on the divisional tiebreaker as well. So you have
36 wins in that division.
Yeah, lots of wins. But I think this division is always a fun one to monitor. I mean, these 4 teams are always battling.
The amount of national attention it gets as well. I mean, it's
true. They play the Eagles and Cowboys play Sunday Night Football every single year, and it's always the worst. Well, I can't really say much. The Packers beat the Bears on Sunday Night Football every year.
Yeah, I mean, it's like I'm just trying to think. It's either we blow them away or our team is just like so injured that like we do nothing and score like 6 points.
Yeah, it'll be like the Cowboys on primetime are like a really good game, or they'll like lose to Mitchell Trubisky, or it'll be like they'll like win like 10-3 or something.
I will say one last thing about the Cowboys. We may not always be very good, but we're always very entertaining.
That is true.
I'll give that.
Trayvon Diggs is much watch television, especially for the ones that hate him.
Yeah, I'll always must watch.
Micah Parsons, man. What if everything else fails, at least watching Micah Parsons will give me some satisfaction.
Hopefully. Yeah. Well, guys, had a great time filming this. This was a great division to break down. Thanks so much for joining us, Salt. It was awesome to have you on here.
Yeah.
Christening the podcast with the first guest.
Maybe we'll get more guests on.
Feel free to
let us know if you get to this point if you want to feature as a guest.
Yeah.
If anyone listens to the end of the hour and a half.
Feel free to ever have me on again if you want.
Definitely will.
Maybe I can be a Chargers fan next time.
Yeah, hopefully.
We might have done that episode already.
That's okay.
But yeah, next time we'll be recording the AFC West. Lots of good teams to break down that division. Who knows what's in store? Lots of surprises ahead. But that is the last NFC division, and had a great time breaking down this whole conference. It should be a fun season.
Yeah.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.